You know very well that I'm...
As you make your final comments, because I can see we're out of time.
Yeah, you know very well I want to respond to Wakili Nyamori. And you know I cannot live here when the entire Mount Kenya is watching me, listening to their community being castigated. I want to say this categorically. It is immoral and it is completely unacceptable when you continue castigating a community over a decision. I need to remind the gentleman on my left that was actually Mount Kenya people who believed in the vision of President William Ruto and voted for him. 46% of his vote came from Mount Kenya. And now you are here trying to purport, trying to claim that we believe we are certain, special breed of people. You cannot say that on a national television. And we demand an apology from Wakili Nyamori. Because we voted for William Ruto, not because he was called Kamau, because he was called Kipchirchir. You need to respect the people of Mount Kenya for that. If there is any disagreement whatsoever between the people of Mount Kenya and the people of and the president, it is out of how he handled what it is that he had actually brought to the people of Mount Kenya and accepted. When you mishandle that, it is up to you to know how to make it, to correct it. I need to tell you something, and I need us to go back to when Uhuru was the president. The people who actually went against Uhuru Kenyatta in regards to what he was doing that was not right, and the people are not agreeing with, they all went back to parliament. People voted for them. The rights of Ishongwa, all those people, the rights of some of the MPs from my constituency in Nyandarua, in Nyandarua, yes, they all went back. Why? Because of how the people of Mount Kenya believes their leader should be. The people of Mount Kenya do not believe whatsoever by any leader who is a yes-sir person. I can tell you that here, and I will confirm for you. They don't believe in leaders who actually follow a line. They believe in people who questions, people who actually say, let me first ask the people and what the people want. But I need to mention something. Wakili Nyamori has been telling us here about the structures. Let me tell you, every time DCP tries to put up a structure of themselves, what has the government been doing? Mm-hmm. The government has been deliberate in actually trying to what we call intimidate that particular structure. The first time DCP came into being, we had some elements of DCP arrested, including a youth leader, a young girl from somewhere here called the Wanjiko Thega. She was arrested, and we couldn't even, she was abducted, and nobody could find her. Recently, 2 weeks ago, I think a week ago, a guy called Stanley, who is actually an official of DCP, after Okalao, the same day he was abducted. We've seen him in the media trying to tell us what it is that the people who abducted him wanted him to do. Falsely accuse some people within opposition. It is a tactic of government to try and actually intimidate what it is, the structure we are trying to build. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you, now we are getting into a competition. Now we are getting into a real lead. The wheels have to roll. The wheel have to be oiled. And structures are actually going to be put in place. And we are telling the government, no amount of intimidation, abductions whatsoever, that is going to make the DCP not to put up the structures that they need to put so that they can be able to win. I need to say something about Okalao. I come from there. I come from Okalao. I agree with Wakili Kipto. This is the real deal. And I can tell you for a fact, and you will call me here again with them when we are coming to compare notes. It doesn't matter the amount of tanks, the amount of military, the amount of fighter jets that the government is going to deploy to actually come and try and self here. Nyandarua is not Bere. Nyandarua is actually the home of the Mau Maus, and their grandchildren are the one now coming up to vote, to vote. Not only to vote, even to vie. I can tell you this will be a different game altogether. Okay. I am a son of Nyandarua, and I can confidently say on behalf of my people, I'm not talking about on behalf of him, because he will never agree with me on anything. As far as he's a UDA person, he will never agree. Okay. I am talking on behalf of my people. Yeah. It is time for us to express our desire, our will, and our frustrations against UDA.
Thank you so much.
And we are going to make sure that UDA cadet does not win.
I'm really pressed for time, and but before I give you an opportunity, the two gentlemen, let's get some feedback because people are also contributing to what we're talking about.
Good morning, TV47 show with Ann Odida and Fred Indemoli. I am Daniel Meli, a student of laws at Kenyatta University, watching from Nairobi. On the Battle of the Coast region, the united opposition is making deliberate effort to regain the political ground. The coast has historically felt marginalized, especially on issues like land ownership, unemployment, as well as access to opportunities. While these political visits signal renewed attention, the people are likely to judge leaders based on solutions rather than rhetoric. The region is becoming a key battleground, and whichever side presents a clear issue issue based on gender, which will have a stronger connection with the voters. Thank you. Good morning, TV47 show with Ann Odida and Fred Ndimuli. I am Daniel Meli, a student of laws at Kenyatta University, watching from Nairobi. On the battle for the mountain, the president visit Murang'a and Tharaka Nithi shows how strategic the Mount Kenya region remains ahead of 2027. These visits are not just about development, but also about consolidating political goodwill and reconnecting with the grassroots. However, residents are increasingly focused on tangible outcomes, for example, cost of living, agriculture support, and economic empowerment. Going forward, the real influence will not come from the frequent visit, but from how effectively the government promises and translate into real change in people's lives. Thank you.
Good morning to 47 Breakfast. Right now, what we are seeing at the Mount Kenya region, especially Murang'a and Tharaka Nithi, is just clearly a political recalibration. And the president's visit is not just development focused; it's very strategic. And this region has historically been a strong voting bloc, but recent tensions and shifting loyalties mean it can no longer be taken for granted. So leaders on the ground are trying to reconnect with wananchi to emphasize projects and rebuild trust. But at the same time, there's silent resistance growing among sections of leaders and youth. So this is no longer a comfortable stronghold. It's becoming more like a competitive political battleground heading to the future.
Thank you so much for your feedback. Quick 2 minutes each for your final comments. We are really out of time. I must apologize.
You know, at least my friend Ikwa Imbot, confessed that they don't have structures. They just want to start building structures. It's too late.
I did it.
My point as I finish in my final remark is that this election is going to be decided by, the development narrative over noise. It is going to be determined by those who have structures over drama. It is going to be determined by, those who are building a national coalition that is, giving, promise of opportunities over those who are basically talking about grievance and making noise in the market. I want to tell you that just as Kwambote's group and the DCP leader, Rigathi Gachagua, has promised that he will thrash the president's team in previous by-elections, when we are done with the Okalao by-election, we will come back here and prove to you that the president's development narrative and delivery, the president's grassroots structures, and the president's coalition, national coalition, defeated ethnic drama and grievance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wakili.
So I think, as I had mentioned, and I'm happy you've said, even when the Deputy President tweets Okalao will be the political story for the fight and like the fight for the soul of Mount Kenya. And I think the battle lines are clear. Mm-hmm. This time now you have a clear coalition course between UD and DCP. Mbere DCP was coming as a complementary to DP. And again, in last year's by-election, you had several across the different countries, whatever the different counties. The president was trying to test a case of different constituencies. If you talk about Kakamega, it was post-BAMBA. What is the ability of the of UDA to consolidate, which they did, and that's why they have swept most of the ODM members from Kakamega into UDA. In cost, it was how do we sustain, because ODM was leading whatever the onslaught to maintain Magarini. Again, it was a test. Mbere, it was a case for more or less like a referendum on the persona of the deputy president and the Cecilia Mbarire team with the president's backing, which they succeeded. Okalao now is the first, as I say, mainstream, main Mount Kenya West. No longer is this where the votes are, where now you put it to a test. And again, by virtue what we have already done dress rehearsal during the burial, you don't need any other better context. That's why your question about why the president comments now comes into force. And I feel this time then, I would want to empathize a bit with DCP in the sense that it's not about military tanks and everything. It will be a case of there's only one constituency and the stakes are so high. And number two, the president who was put into contest mode during the burial, when the local leaders went head on, like Senator Methu and then the former deputy president, how they addressed him kind of drew him into the contest. It was like more or less like doing a haka dance in front of him. It's like bring it on. So I feel Okalao will be consequential for the heart and soul of Mount Kenya going into 2027. Who want to DCP if they lose that seat? Because in that contest, it would then bring a nail on the coffin of their nascent rise. It will even give maybe a space to Jubilee to say if you are given us a chance. So for me, Okalao will be it. That will be the game. Thank you.
16th July 2026, that's a date for the Okalao by-election. And yes, it would appear it is the biggest deal for the heart and soul of Mount Kenya. Thank you so much, Wakili Joshua Kipto, Wakili Joshua Nyamori, and Ikwa Wambote, who's a political analyst, for your time at TV47 this morning. Once again, the big headline, Linda Mwananchi wateka Kisumu. Wakili Nyamori may not agree, but I'm just reading the headlines as they come. Triumphant entry, that's a standard. The same story on the front page of the Daily Nation. It's not the biggest headline, but Sifuna Orengo's ODM camp roars in Kisumu. That's how the media is describing what happened in Kisumu this past weekend. All right, after the break, we switch gears, following a very busy sporting weekend. Monday Blitz will be having all the analysis here. Do stand by for them after the break. My name is Fred Indemuli. Good morning.